Her scream told the truth, sharp enough to freeze the entire marble lobby. People in tailored suits turned, confused, annoyed, already assuming she was the problem. And the millionaire, standing above everyone on the mezzanine, stopped mid-step, stunned by what that scream exposed. She wasn't fighting. She wasn't lying. She was innocent. And suddenly every accusation around her felt false. But no one moved to help her. Not yet. The security guard's grip tightened. The whispers thickened. And in the heavy silence that followed her outcry, something else cracked open. A moment that would change everything, though none of them knew it yet. Before we start, tell us from which city are you watching from? And don't forget to drop your thoughts at the end. Enjoy the story. Ava Moreno had grown up on the far south side of Chicago, in a neighborhood where buses ran late, paychecks ran thin, and most dreams had to survive on stubbornness alone. Her mother worked double shifts at a nursing home, her knuckles always swollen, her smile always tired. Her father left when Ava was 11, but he left behind one thing she repeated like a quiet anchor: stand straight, even when the world leans. She held onto those words the way others held onto luck. Ava was 22 now, juggling part-time classes, a diner job, and a stack of bills that never shrank. She carried a tiny notebook where she tracked every dollar, down to the last $6.25, the amount she always saved just in case. It wasn't much, but it was her symbol of not falling apart. If she kept that amount untouched, she believed she was still in control of her life. Her world was small but honest. Tap water in old mugs, thrift store shoes, microwaved meals eaten standing by the counter before rushing to the next shift. She didn't complain. She didn't have the time. And yet, despite everything holding her down, Ava moved with a quiet kind of dignity. People underestimated her because they saw the worn backpack, the cheap coat, the bus pass held together with tape. They never noticed the way she listened carefully, or how she remembered every detail, or the way she refused to lie, even when a lie would have made things easier. Ava's dream wasn't huge. It was simple. One stable job in a clean office. One chance to step into a world that didn't constantly shake beneath her feet. And now, for the first time, that chance felt close enough to touch, if it didn't slip away first. Ava's fragile hope arrived in the form of a single email, an invitation to interview for a junior administrative position at Haldon & Co., one of Chicago's most prestigious financial firms. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable, full-time, and paid more in a month than she made in 2. It meant health insurance for her mother, a real desk, predictable hours, and a life not constantly on the verge of breaking. She had prepared for days, practiced answers on the bus, Googled the building to understand which doors the important people used, polished her only pair of flats until they almost passed for new. And that morning, she stepped into the towering glass lobby, clutching her folder. Aware of how out of place she looked among people sipping sparkling water and wearing watches worth more than her annual rent. This opportunity was everything. If she failed the interview, there was no backup plan, no savings to soften the fall, no second chance waiting around the corner. Just more late nights at the diner, more overdue notices. More watching her mother pretend she wasn't in pain. Ava inhaled deeply, repeated her father's words, "Stand straight, even when the world leans," and walked toward the reception desk, unaware how quickly things were about to turn. Ava was early, 15 minutes, just like every advice article said. The reception area gleamed, all white stone and steel, the kind of place where sound seemed to soften itself out of respect for money. She approached the desk with her best polite smile. "Good morning, I'm here for the junior admin interview. she said. The receptionist looked her over, eyes lingering a little too long on her scuffed bag and thrifted blazer. Name? The woman typed, frowned, then typed again. I'm not seeing you on today's schedule. Ava blinked. I have the confirmation email. I printed it. She held out the neatly stapled pages. Before the receptionist could take them, a security guard stepped forward. Ma'am, you can't be here without being on the list. I am on the list, Ava said, trying to keep her voice steady. Please just look. But he didn't look. He didn't even reach for the paper. Instead, he angled himself between her and the desk. We've had issues with people trying to get upstairs without clearance. People. She knew what he meant. People like her. I'm not trying to sneak in, she said softly. I have an interview. It's okay, the receptionist said, but her tone was the opposite of reassuring. She can show us her bag. Ava stiffened. My bag? It's protocol, the guard added, already reaching. No, wait, there's nothing in there, she protested. He unzipped it anyway, right in front of the morning crowd. Out spilled her notebook, a pack of gum, her cheap phone charger, and the small envelope she used to keep her emergency $6.25. The coins scattered across the gleaming lobby floor, rolling under polished shoes. A few people laughed quietly. Someone whispered, "Oh God, she's broke." Her face burned. Her breath tightened. She crouched to gather the coins, but a man in a suit stepped back as if afraid she'd touch him. Then the guard's voice rose. Ma'am, I need to know if you took anything from reception. The accusation hit her like a slap. What? No, why would I? We're missing a visitor pass, the receptionist said flatly. It was right here. Now it's not. Ava shook her head, horrified. I didn't take anything. But no one believed her, not a single person. Their eyes said it all. Something inside her snapped. Her scream tore out of her, raw, desperate, involuntary, echoing off the marble walls. I didn't take anything, and just like that, the lobby went silent. The whispering stopped. Her hope, so carefully built, shattered in an instant. On the mezzanine level above the lobby, Ethan Haldon had paused mid-stride. Most people didn't expect the heir to Haldon & Co. to walk through the building without an entourage, but Ethan preferred to move quietly, unnoticed. It was easier that way, easier to breathe outside the polished expectations of his last name. He had been reviewing a message on his phone when the scream cut through the air. It wasn't loud, it wasn't wild, it was the kind of scream someone makes when they've been pushed past every last inch of dignity they were trying to protect. He looked down. The scene below him came into focus piece by piece. A young woman kneeling on the lobby floor, desperately gathering coins. A guard towering over her. A receptionist watching with thin lips. A small cluster of employees standing like spectators at a silent show. It didn't take long for Ethan to understand what they thought she'd done. It took even less time to see they were wrong. He saw the way she held herself, even on her knees, even humiliated. That wasn't the posture of someone caught stealing. That was someone trying not to break. Ethan's jaw tightened. He had seen this before. Not this exact moment, but moments like it. People treated as lesser, simply because they didn't dress the part. He remembered his own mother years back, before the money, being dismissed in offices like this, spoken to with small, cutting condescension, until she learned to armor herself in designer clothes and perfected poise. He leaned forward slightly, watching as the guard demanded an explanation, as the receptionist kept her distance, as the woman's voice trembled but didn't cave. I didn't take anything, she had said again. Small words, but they carried a weight that made Ethan frown. He caught the movement of a shiny object near a desk leg, a visitor pass, half tucked beneath a sleek advertising stand. No one else noticed. He looked from the card to the woman. Her scream had not been the shock. The shock was the truth inside it. The raw, unfiltered innocence. And in that moment, something unexpected flickered in Ethan. A sense of responsibility he hadn't asked for, but couldn't ignore. From above, he saw the moment when she finally lifted her head. Breath shaking, eyes burning with humiliation. She looked alone, too alone. And Ethan Halden decided, quietly, firmly, that he wasn't letting this moment play out the way everyone below expected. Ethan descended the staircase with a calm that didn't match the tension tightening his chest. People noticed him immediately. Of course they did. Being a Halden meant rooms adjusted to you, whether you wanted them to or not. Conversations dipped, postures straightened. But he kept his focus on the young woman still kneeling, clutching the last coins of her scattered $6.25. Her breath uneven as the guard loomed. "That's enough," Ethan said, his voice steady, not raised, just final. The guard turned. "Sir, we have a situation." "You do," Ethan replied. "But not the one you think." The receptionist's expression shifted from superiority to sudden caution. "Mr. Halden, we were just—" He held up a hand. "The missing visitor pass is behind your display stand." He pointed to it, the edge visible now that someone actually bothered to look. A few murmurs rippled through the lobby. The receptionist's face blanched. Ethan crouched, not beside the guard, not near the staff, but beside Ava. He did it without hesitation, letting the floor of his own lobby touch the fabric of his tailored suit. "You drop some," he said gently, helping gather the remaining coins into her palm. She froze, startled. Humiliation made her want to pull away, but shock kept her still. "You didn't take anything," Ethan said, not loudly, not theatrically, just truthfully. "Everyone here owes you an apology." The guard stiffened. "Sir, I was following protocol." "No," Ethan replied. "You were following assumptions." Ava inhaled sharply. For a moment, she stared at the last coin in her hand, her throat tightening at how small and exposed she felt. She didn't want his help. She didn't want anyone's pity. But she also couldn't deny the shift he created, one that made the room see her instead of their version of her. "Stand up," Ethan said quietly, not as an order, but as an offer. Her father's creed rose in her mind. Stand straight even when the world leans. And this world had leaned hard. Ava rose. Ethan faced the lobby crowd, his voice clear. "This applicant is here for an interview. She will be treated with respect. If anyone has an issue with that, they can see me directly." No one spoke. But the silence was different now. Not dismissive. Respectful. Uneasy. Ava's hands trembled, but she kept her chin lifted. She didn't thank him. She couldn't, not yet. Gratitude felt too close to surrender. Still, something had shifted between them, a line neither expected to cross. And everyone around them felt it. The elevator doors had barely closed before the temperature of the morning shifted again. Ava expected to be taken straight to the interview room, but instead, the HR director, Margaret Sloan, stood waiting on the executive floor. Her gray suit was crisp, her expression sharper than any edge in the building. "Mr. Halden," she said, voice tightly polite, "a word, now." Ethan nodded toward Ava. "Wait here. I'll be right back." Margaret stepped into a small conference room, expecting Ethan to follow. Instead, Ethan held the door open just long enough for Ava to hear the tone if not every word. "This is a professional environment," Margaret began. "Your intervention downstairs created confusion." "What I did," Ethan replied, "was stop an employee from humiliating a guest." "She wasn't a guest," Margaret snapped. "She's an interviewee from an unverified background, and this company must protect its reputation." Ava's chest tightened. Unverified background. She stood inches away but felt worlds apart. Ethan's voice dropped. "So dignity only applies to people who look like they belong here." Margaret stiffened. "We can't take risks on unstable candidates." Did you hear her scream? That alone reflects poorly. Ava glanced down, ashamed of the sound that slipped out of her earlier. But Ethan didn't let it stand. "She screamed," he said, "because she was being wrongly accused, and if that reflects poorly on anyone, it's us." Margaret folded her arms. "You cannot override protocol every time you feel sympathetic." "This isn't sympathy," Ethan said. "It's responsibility." A dangerous silence settled. Margaret's eyes narrowed. "Very well. If she stays for the interview, the decision and consequences are on you." Ethan didn't blink, then put them on me. He stepped back into the hallway. The polished walls reflected a version of herself she barely recognized, shaken, small, and painfully out of place. Ethan approached a minute later, footsteps measured, expression unreadable. "Are you all right?" he asked softly. Ava didn't answer right away. Instead, she straightened her blazer, the cheap fabric still creased from kneeling on the lobby floor. "You shouldn't have stepped in," she said. He blinked. "Someone had to." "No," she replied, voice tight. "Someone with authority had to. Someone like you. And now everyone thinks I needed rescuing." He frowned. "You were being treated unfairly." "I could have handled it," she shot back, though her trembling hands betrayed her. "What you did, it felt like charity." Ethan stepped back slightly, surprised. "Charity? That's not what I was doing." "Then what was it?" Her voice cracked, frustration flaring. "Because from where I'm standing, it looked like a rich man swooping in to save the girl who didn't belong here." "That's not fair," Ethan said quietly. "Neither was this morning," she answered. "But I didn't scream for you to come running. I screamed because no one would just listen." He exhaled sharply, fighting for calm. "I didn't help you because I think you're weak. I helped you because they were wrong. Someone had to challenge that." "Maybe," she said, "but you get to walk away from it. I don't. I'll be the girl who caused a scene. The girl who had to be defended. It'll follow me, not you." Ethan held her gaze. "I know my privilege. I know I don't pay the same price. But that doesn't mean I should stand there and watch it happen." Ava crossed her arms, trying to shield the rawness underneath. "Next time, let me fight my own battles." "Even when the world leans against you?" he asked quietly. Her breath stalled. He'd overheard her father's creed. Or maybe just felt it in every stubborn inch of her posture. She looked away. Especially then. For a moment, neither spoke. The tension between them wasn't anger anymore. It was something more complicated. Heavier. Finally, Ethan said, "The interview panel still wants to see you." A beat. "But only if you want to go." Ava lifted her chin, swallowing the last of her shaking breath. "I came here for a chance," she said. "I'm not leaving without taking it." Ava expected to be ushered straight into a formal interview room, but instead, the HR assistant informed her that the company had added a practical evaluation, a joint task, a real-time assignment, and her partner, by some twist of timing or intention, would be Ethan Halden himself. Ava stared at him, stunned. "You're part of the evaluation." He shrugged lightly. "I didn't design it, but I'm here now. They were escorted into a glass-walled conference room overlooking the river. Inside lay a single folder labeled Operational Challenge, Entry-Level Assessment. The task was deceptively simple. Analyze a scheduling backlog, propose a fix, and present a short summary. Ava opened the folder first. Rows of overlapping appointments, time blocks, and misaligned data filled the page. She had done similar work at the diner, less glamorous, but just as chaotic. Ethan stepped behind her, scanning the mess. "They're testing how you problem solve under pressure," he said. "No," Ava replied, pencil already moving. "They're testing whether I panic." Her tone made Ethan pause, but he let her lead. She reorganized the chart quickly, her handwriting neat, her logic clean. She spoke little, but every choice she made was clear and efficient. "You're good at this," Ethan said. She didn't look up. "I've been keeping 2 jobs and a sick parent afloat for 5 years. Scheduling is the easy part." Something in her voice made him quiet. As they worked, the class divide between them kept flickering. His pristine cufflinks beside her worn notebook. His sparkling water beside her tap-filled bottle. But in the actual task, there was no divide. They functioned like 2 gears of the same machine, different in shape, but clicking into place. When they finished, Ethan gathered the papers. "You did most of it," he said. Ava shook her head. "We did it. It wasn't warmth. It wasn't friendship. But it was something new. A fragile, reluctant respect, earned, not given." The presentation to the interview panel ended more smoothly than Ava expected. She spoke clearly. Ethan kept quiet unless necessary. And together, they delivered a solution that even the senior manager nodded at with reluctant approval. When it was over, the panel dismissed them with a neutral, "We'll be in touch." And the door closed behind them. The hallway outside the conference room felt strangely quiet. Less hostile, but heavier in another way. Ava exhaled, leaning against the wall. "I hate waiting," she muttered. Ethan glanced at her. "You did well." She shook her head. "That doesn't mean anything. I've done well before. Life doesn't always care." There was no bitterness in her voice, only truth, a steady, tired truth he didn't quite know how to hold. They walked toward the elevators, silent for several steps. Then Ethan said, "You think I don't understand pressure?" Ava almost laughed. "Pressure? You're a Heldon. Your name opens doors. And locks others," he replied quietly. She turned, surprised. He leaned on the railing overlooking the lobby. The same lobby where her humiliation had unfolded hours earlier. "Everyone assumes I want this life," he said. "That I'm comfortable with the money, the expectations, the way people change when they find out who my father is. But none of this was my choice." Ava crossed her arms. "Must be hard being rich?" Ethan didn't flinch at the sarcasm. "It's hard being defined before you even introduce yourself." Ava stopped walking. He wasn't defending privilege. He wasn't pretending his struggles matched hers. He was simply telling the truth. "What do you want then?" she asked. He hesitated. "To build something that's mine, not inherited, not expected, just mine." Ava looked down at her shoes, scuffed from the morning. "I get that," she whispered. "All I've ever wanted is a life that isn't one emergency away from falling apart." Their eyes met not in sympathy, but in the quiet recognition of 2 people carrying different cages. Hers was rusted, but they were cages all the same. From above, the lobby hummed with distant footsteps, echoing off the marble that it witnessed her lowest point. "This place," Ava said softly, "it makes you feel like you're supposed to shrink." "And it makes me feel like I'm supposed to perform," Ethan replied. She breathed in. "Maybe we both learned something today." His voice softened. "Maybe we did." In that single moment, simple, unplanned, honest. They weren't the millionaire's son and the girl who didn't belong. They were two people trying to stand straight in a world that leaned hard on both of them, just in opposite directions. Ava and Ethan returned to the lobby just as the HR director, Margaret Sloan, was addressing a group of senior staff. Her voice carried easily across the polished floor. And until the investigation is complete, we must maintain strict caution regarding unverified candidates. Ava froze. Unverified candidate. Her humiliation was being turned into a corporate warning. Ethan's jaw tightened. He stepped forward without hesitation. The investigation is complete, he said, loud enough to halt the entire gathering. Dozens of eyes turned. Ethan lifted the missing visitor pass, the same one the staff had accused Ava of stealing. This was found exactly where I said it was, misplaced, not taken, and Miss Moreno completed her evaluation with exceptional clarity. A ripple of murmurs. Margaret's face stiffened. Mr. Halden, this isn't the place. It's exactly the place, he interrupted. Ethan interrupted. A mistake was made publicly. It should be corrected publicly. He stepped aside, revealing Ava. For the first time since the incident, the crowd truly looked at her. Not as a suspect, not as an inconvenience, but as someone who had stood through humiliation without breaking. Ava lifted her chin. Her father's creed steadied her. Strong straight, even when the world leans. And she did. Hours later, when the building had quieted and the lobby lights softened, Ava found herself standing in the same marble space where her morning had fallen apart. The memory of coins rolling across the floor still clung to her, but the air felt different now. Lighter, as if the room itself had shifted its weight. She reached into her pocket and closed her hand around the familiar $6.25. Earlier, those coins had felt like proof of everything she lacked. They felt like proof of everything she'd survived. Ethan approached with a sealed envelope. The panel made their decision, he said. Ava held her breath. You earned it, he added. Welcome to Halden & Co. For a moment, she didn't move, didn't speak. She simply let the words settle, grounding her like the first solid step after a long stumble. It wasn't pity. It wasn't charity. It was recognition of her work, her grit, her truth. She nodded once. Thank you. For all of it. He didn't smile, not fully, but his expression softened with something like respect. You did this, Ava, not me. As she walked toward the exit, she paused near the spot where her coins had scattered. She dropped one quarter gently on the marble, not as a loss, but as a mark. A reminder of the moment she refused to break. Her father's voice echoed inside her. Stand straight, even when the world leans. And this time, the world felt just a little less tilted. Some truths arrive quietly. Others arrive in a single scream that forces the world to finally see you. Ava walked out of that building changed, not because someone saved her, but because she refused to bend when everything leaned against her. And sometimes, courage looks exactly like that, standing straight in the place where you once fell. If this story moved you, let me know in the comments. And if you'd like more stories of dignity, resilience, and quiet strength, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps these stories reach more hearts.